other shows we have for you to enjoy at myclassicradio.net. The Avengers was most certainly not a household name in South Africa prior to the radio series. With no national television service until 1976, the mechanism simply was not present in the country to show television programs to mass audiences. While many other countries reveled in the filmed adventures of John Steed and company, South Africa was not equipped to join in the fun. The series took Britain by storm and made a major impression in the American markets, being that greatest of rarities, a British series given a network transmission slot. However, as a filmed series, rather than a videotaped one, The Avengers was able to gain a modicum of exposure in South Africa through film rentals. Come and listen at myclassicradio.net.
Dramas of the Court.
The law awards and the law punishes.
Presenting true-life jury trials. Stories in fictionized form, typical of the unfolding human dramas of the court. Tonight, the case of the unknown tramp.
Order. Order in the court.
The case begins.
It's here at last. A day of my trial. I, Nora Quinn, stand here in the dock charged with murder. The court is crammed with people. Everywhere I look, there are eyes staring at me. Inquisitive, sympathetic, contemptuous. The reporters are ready. Everyone will hear the name Nora Quinn. Everyone will read my story. That is what I want. What I have wanted for 20 years. To tell my story to the world. To let them do as they will with me.
Your Honor, I do not think that this case will take up much of the court's time. It's a very simple, straightforward case, as will be seen when the evidence unfolds. The accused, Nora Quinn, and her housekeeper, Bella Lomas, who, I understand, now lies seriously ill in hospital, lived together on a lonely farm in the hills. On the night of March the 1st last, a wandering tramp, whose identity cannot be established, called at the farmhouse to beg for food and shelter. These he was given, and we take it for granted that he crept into the barn where he was to spend the night, thanking the kind women who had taken him in. Little knowing that during that night, one of these kind women would creep into the barn and with a single rifle shot end his life. And why? Why did she take his life? Sergeant Grant.
I examined the barn very carefully. There were some blankets in one corner. Close to the blankets was a lantern and a newspaper. I would say the deceased was lying down reading at the time he was disturbed.
Was there any sign of a struggle?
None at all.
Sergeant Grant will also tell you.
On the night of the murder, March the 1st last, we experienced one of the worst storms ever known in the district. It broke at approximately 6 p.m., and after that it would have been impossible for anyone to get to the farm. The storm continued until early morning.
And the approximate time of death, Sergeant?
9 o'clock, sir.
When the storm was at its worst?
Yes, sir.
We may take it then that at the time of the shooting, only the murdered man and the two women were present at the farm.
It would seem so.
There is little more to say, Your Honor. The rifle with which the unknown tramp was shot belonged to the accused and had her fingerprints only on it. When the police arrived next morning at the farm, brought there by the woman Lomas, the accused offered no explanation of the tragedy. And why? Because there was none to offer. Up to now, she's spoken no word in her defense. And I submit, Your Honor, that this silence is a clear indication of her guilt. This woman, Nora Quinn, is guilty, horribly guilty, of this senseless and unprovoked murder of a harmless and unknown tramp.
How little they know, these people who accuse and condemn. Oh, yes, I killed him. But I am guilty of no senseless crime. When you live with sorrow for 20 years, when it gets into your brain and your heart and your very soul, when lies and injustice have poisoned your existence for so long, and suddenly truth stands before you, waiting to be revealed, you must do something, anything, even murder. Soon I shall tell my story, and for once these people shall know the truth, the whole truth.
Mr. James, you've undertaken the defense of this woman?
Your Honor, I'm in a very difficult position. I've been appointed by the Crown to conduct the case for the defense, but despite every endeavor on my part, the accused has persistently refused to discuss the matter with me.
Yet she pleads not guilty. This is most extraordinary.
However, I would be lacking in my duty if I did not make some effort to defend her. I can bring forward no witnesses, but I propose to show that the case the Crown has put forth is not so watertight as my colleague would have us believe. When we consider that these two women were alone on the farm when this unknown tramp arrived, is it not possible that, afraid of what he might do, perhaps he had previously threatened one or the other, and in self-defense...
That is a lie!
Order! Order!
The court will come to order. Prisoner, you've come to this court and pleaded not guilty to the crime of which you are accused. You've given your counsel no information on which to base his defense. If you've now changed your mind, then the court will consider adjourning while you consult.
I want no adjournments or consultations.
You must show the court respect.
I mean no disrespect. But I would like to tell my story in my own way.
You wish to enter the box and make a statement?
Yes, sir. I will tell you what happened that night. I will tell you everything. You see, I knew this man, the man who was murdered. I held that gun that killed him. It was these hands that fired the shot, but I am not guilty. Not guilty.
Order! Order!
The public gallery will remember this is a court of law, not a circus. You will enter the box and tell your story.
It was late afternoon when he came to the farm. He looked just an ordinary tramp. They often came in to beg for food. I was watching the storm clouds gathering over the hills when I saw him coming. Bella was in the kitchen. I could hear her humming softly to herself as she prepared the dinner. I saw the tramp turn the corner of the house to go to the back door. I heard him knock. I heard Bella go to the door, and I walked to the kitchen as he spoke.
Just some food and shelter, lady, that's all I want.
Well, I don't know about shelter, but I'll give you something to eat.
There's a terrible storm coming up. There ain't no shelter in these hills.
Plenty of caves if you take the trouble to look for them.
Ever spent a night in a cave, lady?
That's enough of your cheek, my man.
Oh, I didn't mean no harm, lady, but it's biting cold in them hills. Wouldn't hurt to use the barn, would it?
I'll have to ask the mistress about that.
It's all right, Bella. She can sleep in the barn.
Oh, thank you, lady. Much obliged.
Tramps often came to our back door. And before we gave them food, Bella always made them wash. She had the tea to get, so I took him out a basin of water. He had taken off his coat, and the old sleeveless sweater he wore was torn and dirty. But as he turned to watch me approach, a sense of dismay came over me. I felt fear like a cold snake around my heart. I gave him the basin and turned to go, and then I saw it. On his right arm, near the shoulder, a scar shaped like a cross.
Hey, what are you staring at?
That scar, on your arm.
What about it? Ain't nothing.
Well, how did you get it?
Had it for years. Always had that scar, I have. Hey, what's the matter with you? You look scared.
Sorry. Scars, wounds, they upset me. I must go.
What's the matter with you?
Bella,
Come and sit down. Here, let me help you.
No, I'm all right.
Well, you don't look it. Looks as though you've seen a ghost.
Don't say that.
What's happened? Did that tramp...
Bella, quickly, go outside. Look at that man.
I've looked once.
But look at his arm. His right arm, near the shoulder.
Now, miss, I've got more to do
Don't
than...
argue and don't let him notice. Look at that arm.
Oh, all right. Seems a bit silly to me.
Oh, dear God. That can't be. It couldn't be. After all these years.
Well, I looked.
What did you see?
He's got a scar on his arm, that's all.
Did he notice you looking?
Now, Miss Nora, what's come over you? No, he didn't. I just walked along the veranda and picked up a towel.
But you saw the scar. You did see it.
Of course I did.
Then I'm not going mad. Have you ever seen anything like it before?
No. No, I can't say as I have. It's a pretty old wound by the look of it. More like a burn, I'd say.
You're right, Bella. It was a burn. And it is old. He got it when he was a boy. His brother did it. They were playing. They were only children. I saw it happen. I came home crying.
Merciful heavens, I remember.
You know who he is now, don't you?
It can't be. They're dead, both of them.
Are they, Bella?
I don't like this, Miss Nora. Don't let that man in here.
Yes, let him in. 20 years ago, a man was hanged for a murder he did not commit. Tonight, we're going to find out the truth about that murder.
Let the dead stay dead.
But they won't, Bella. They won't stay dead.
There's something evil about this. Something evil.
Listen to the wind. Listen. We can't send him away. And the rain. A storm, it's here. It's an omen. An omen.
Don't talk like that.
He can't get away now. Not as he did 20 years ago. I went inside and waited till Bella had given the man his food. I tried to think, to reason, to picture what must have happened on that night 20 years ago. Oh, I'd done that often enough before, but this time it was different. Here was something too horrible to contemplate. At last, Bella came in.
Well, I've given him some old blankets and he's gone over to the barn.
He didn't recognize you?
After 20 years? Of course not. I can't say as how I'd recognize him either.
Except for the scar.
Perhaps it's not the man.
It is. It must be. I'd never forget that scar.
What are you going to do?
I don't know. Somehow I must find out the truth.
Listen, Miss Nora. I've been with you all your life. After your mother died, young as I was, I took care of you. Your father...
My father was kind to you.
As though he's not my own father.
And my father was hanged for a murder he did not commit.
I know.
We are the only two who can prove to the world that he was innocent.
Please, don't bring it all up again. It's forgotten. The whole thing is forgotten.
Not by us, Bella. Not by you and me. For 20 years we have remembered. That's why we have lived here. Just the two of us together. So that we could remind ourselves.
But your father's case is in the past. What good can come of bringing it up again?
So that everyone will know that my father was an innocent man. Don't you want that too?
Yes, of course. But I'm afraid. If you tell that man out there that you know who he is, that doesn't mean he'll tell you the story.
I can guess the story. Can't you, Bella?
No, it's too horrible. I won't believe it.
Not more horrible than condemning an innocent man to be hanged.
Wait till morning. I'll go down the hill early and bring the police back. We'll tell them who he is. That's it. We'll tell the police and they can start an inquiry.
He'd be gone before you got back. And maybe the police wouldn't believe my story. No. I must handle this my way.
What if he attacks you when you go out there?
We shall be safe. You see, I'm taking my gun with me. You've always been glad I learned to shoot. Be glad tonight.
What are you going to do?
Hear his story and then... Then I think I must kill him.
Part 2 of the case of the unknown tramp will follow in a few moments. Meanwhile, your announcer. The court resumes, and the case of the unknown tramp continues. Nora Quinn has once more taken her place in the witness box.
Order! Order!
The accused has referred to a murder which took place 20 years ago and has suggested that a man, her father, was wrongfully hanged for that murder. I consider it the duty of this court to allow the accused to tell us of that other case. I feel it may throw some light on her motives in this present case. The accused will continue her story.
My father was a pastor in the little town of Valewood, which lies on the other side of the hills. We had a farm. Bella was our servant. Close to us was another farm owned by Martin Burns, who lived there with his brother Neil. Martin wanted to marry me, but my father...
My daughter marry you? No, Burns. Such a thought is intolerable.
I have a good farm. I'm a good worker.
I have told you I will not consider such a thing.
But why?
I do not like you, Martin Burns. Neither you nor your brother.
I'll admit Neil's lazy. Drinks a little.
Drinks a little. He's a disgrace to the neighborhood, and you are little better.
You've no right to speak like that.
I'll speak as I please, Burns. I've been pastor in this town for many years. I've known you since you were a child, and I repeat, I wish to hear no more from you concerning my daughter.
You're unfair, Pastor. Neil and I did get into a few scrapes when we were boys.
You're a liar and a cheat and a worthless no-good.
You old hypocrite.
That's enough. And so far as you're concerned, I don't want you speaking to my daughter again.
So, I'm not good enough for her, eh? Aiming at something better. Someone wealthier. You give yourself some mighty fine airs, Pastor Quinn.
Get out. Leave my premises, do you hear? Get out.
Dad! Dad, what's the matter?
Get that man out of my sight before
Please, Dad, you're only upsetting yourself. What have you done to him, Martin?
I only proposed that we get married.
Me marry you? I wouldn't marry you if you were the last man on earth.
You heard what my daughter said, Burns. Now get out. And if I ever catch you anywhere near my home or my daughter again, I'll take my stick to you and by
Father,
heaven...
please. Martin, go away.
All right. But I won't forget how you've treated me. I won't forget. And neither will you, Nora Quinn and Pastor Robert Quinn.
That's the way it began. This story that's finishing here in this court today. Began that moment my father ordered Martin Burns away from the house. The whole town knew that the Burns brothers were vicious, cruel, and not to be trusted. But how could we guess the hatred that was in Martin Burns as he walked from the farm that day? We thought no more about it. It was forgotten and not even remembered when Neil Burns came begging help from my father, asking for some work on the farm, swearing to reform if Dad would help him. Dad believed him, and Neil came to work for us. Then one day I returned from the town.
Oh, Miss Nora, I'm glad you're back.
What's the matter, Bella?
It's your father, miss.
What's the matter? Is he hurt? Where is he?
He's in his room.
Oh, I must go and see.
No, don't go to him. He doesn't want to be disturbed.
But what's happened?
It's that Neil. There's a bad one if ever there was.
What did he do?
Provoking your father. The pastor lost his temper.
Oh, Bella, he'll be ill again. He always is when he loses his temper. And he worries so afterwards.
I know. He's in there now with his Bible.
And Neil, where is he?
Gone. Took to his heels in a hurry when your father started threatening him.
Oh, thank goodness for that. He's done nothing but make trouble since he came here.
It's a funny thing, Miss Nora.
What, Bella?
Sometimes I think he did it deliberately. Provoking your father, I mean. And that Martin Burns has never forgiven you or your father. I understand every time he goes down to the hotel, he starts threatening you both. Says he'll make you pay for the way you treated him.
You think that Neil came here deliberately to annoy Father?
I don't know. But he came with a purpose, that I do know.
Well, he's gone now. It's all over.
Somehow I don't think so. Somehow I feel that it was a bad day for us the day Neil Burns stepped over our doorstep.
Neil Burns went out of our house, out of our lives. He was never seen again. Within a week they were searching, questioning, wondering what had become of Neil Burns. In that little isolated town 20 years ago, we had no official police force. We rarely needed one. It was some days before they found the remains of the fire in the little gully behind our farm. I remember that spot so well. I used to play there as a child. Someone recalled seeing the fire the night Neil Burns had disappeared. A figure had been seen standing in the shadows watching the fire burn. The spot had been well covered over, and they started to uncover it. They raked over the ashes. Something glistened in the sunlight.
They're buckled. That's Neil's. And look, there's the ring he was wearing. Everyone knows this ring. It's Neil's. He's dead. He's been murdered. Murdered, I tell you. And I know who did it. It was Pastor Quinn. He hated us both. He threatened me and he threatened Neil. Everyone knows he did. Pastor Quinn murdered my brother.
My father was arrested and tried. In a little town like ours, everyone knew of the quarrels he had with Martin and Neil Burns. The fire was on our farm. But the people loved Father. They knew him as a stern but just man. They didn't condemn him at first. Not until Bella told her story. Poor Bella, she didn't realize.
Yes, he did leave the house that night, the pastor did. I know because I saw him. But he couldn't have murdered that man, I know that. You see, he was walking in his sleep. He did it occasionally. But I know he couldn't have committed the murder. He couldn't have done a thing like that in his sleep, could he? You don't believe me. You don't believe me. But it's true, I tell you, it's true. I wouldn't have told you if I thought you wouldn't believe me. You've got to believe me.
But they didn't. Not the sleepwalking part. They thought she was trying to protect him. Poor Bella. But there was one person who thought she was telling the truth. That was my father. After he heard Bella's story, he thought he must have committed that murder without knowing. My father died believing himself a murderer. Now is my crime a senseless one? Was it wrong to kill the man who did this thing to my father? Wasn't it right that he should die? I killed that tramp, and I'm glad I did.
Order! Order! The court will come to order. I must ask the accused to control herself. I would point out that it is never right for an individual to usurp the function of the courts. When justice is to be done, our courts will do it. In killing this man, it would seem that you not only desired to avenge your father, but wished to prove his innocence. Is that it?
When I realized who that tramp was, I knew I could prove that my father had no part in that old murder.
I see. Are there any questions, Mr. Casey, that you would care to put to the accused?
If you please, Your Honor. Miss Quinn, you've told us a most unusual, I might even say a most fantastic tale.
It's true, every word of it.
Let's hope so. It has been on oath. It seems to me that by killing this man, you destroyed your evidence as regards that old murder case. Alive, the man could have been questioned. He could have spoken.
Dead, he will speak louder. It was not his words which tell the story, but that scar on his arm. Everyone in Valewood knows that scar. Call anyone from over the hill and they will identify it.
Whatever the idea, the dead man, I put it to you, Miss Quinn, that you killed him. And you are therefore guilty of the crime of murder.
I am not guilty.
Yet you admit taking this man's life.
Yes?
Yes, Miss Quinn, I find it very difficult to understand you. From your story, I gather that this man, this tramp, whom you admit killing, was the man who 20 years ago murdered Neil Burns.
That man with the scar on his arm is Neil Burns.
Order! Order!
How can I be guilty of murdering a man already legally dead?
Miss Quinn, you do not seriously ask us to believe.
I have said, call anyone from Valewood. We all knew Neil Burns. Everyone will identify him.
I must insist on silence in the court. You are sure of this, Miss Quinn?
He told me the whole story before I killed him. He was the shadowy figure seen beside the fire. Oh, it was planned, cleverly planned. While his brother Martin provided himself with an alibi, Neil arranged the fire. He went away that night, taking all Martin's savings with him.
And Martin?
He's dead. He used to send Neil money so that he wouldn't come back to Valewood. When the money stopped, Neil became a wandering tramp. It was fate that brought him to the farm. Fate that brought that storm. I knew that someday I'd be able to tell my story, and I've done it. I've done it.
Now, please, control yourself.
Control myself. Keep calm. I've waited 20 years for this moment, and it's come. I've cleared my father's name. It wasn't easy. Dear God, it wasn't easy to kill him. He looked at me just before he died. His eyes staring at me. Don't let him look at me! Those eyes! Those eyes!
Quickly! She's fainting!
They carried Nora Quinn from the courtroom. For weeks she lay desperately ill. She's still desperately ill. But she's quieter now, perhaps happy. It's hard to tell. For she will spend the rest of her days in an insane asylum, with Bella Lomas as her only visitor and friend. Her strange story was investigated and proved to be true. And in the little town of Valewood, just over the hills, there's a new stone over an old grave. Its inscription reads, "Under this stone reposes Robert Quinn, who suffered unjustly for a crime he never committed, victim of a foul plot, unhappy sport of blind justice."
The court is adjourned.
The judge departs. The jury is discharged. The judgment has been given. Another human story is over until the law of the land is challenged again, and we are privileged to hear once more at this time, Dramas of the Court. This is a Grace Gibson radio production produced by Reg Johnston.